placement by the school district, it is within tuition. So that is within that number. I'm looking here if I can find it. Okay, so what is unilateral? Unilateral is when a parent unilaterally outplaces their child. They are not happy with the services here. There's maybe a mediation with the school district. A child is placed by the parent into a special education school, and there's an agreement made of what the school district will help pay for that school. However, the school district then no longer has any responsibility for that child's education. I know it's very complex. I'm trying to simplify it as much as I can. So the school district then releases all responsibility for that child's education, good or bad. However, they still do fund. Sometimes it's part of, sometimes it's all of, and in between. But those monies go towards tuition or transportation or both. So there's very few of those children that is wrapped up into the tuition line of outplaced students for special ed. Outplaced students for special ed are designated as those students who the team, what we call the planning and placement team, chooses, because the child absolutely needs a different placement for their education, they choose to place that child into a special education school. Most of our outplaced students at this time are students with social emotional disabilities. And it is typical that students who are outplaced are students who have significant disabilities that cannot be addressed within the school setting. So as I think most people know, we do not have a resident psychiatrist on staff. We cannot give students the services they absolutely need when there are serious emotional disabilities. However, that number, I don't know, Bill, did you happen to find that number?
It's right here. It's got $400,000.
So our current budget for out-of-district placements is just a little less than 1.7 million, and next year's budget is just a little more than 2 million. And the average cost of an outplacement is $97,000.
The number of outplaced students, I want to say I think we've gone from approximately 15 to 21 as of just this month. There are 21. Oh, and the average per student cost is for students outplaced, yeah, is $97,000. I think that was it. Right, yeah, at this point, and that's what we don't know for next year. We do get some reimbursement from the State Department. So it's called excess cost reimbursement. It is based on, okay, I'm gonna make this as simple as I can. I'm not gonna go into all the details, but it's like a deductible, okay? And based on Suffield, our deductible is approximately $70,000. So anything we pay above and beyond that $70,000, the state reimburses us a percentage. Last year, I think it was 72%. So if a child's outplacement cost the district $100,000, the state would have reimbursed us 72% of the $30,000, not 72% of the entire cost. But so it does add up. I mean, it does help. but I think we still need to keep in mind that for every child that is outplaced, on average, right, it's going to be about $70,000. However, let me say this. A lot of thought and effort goes into deciding whether or not a child is outplaced. These are not children with mild disabilities. These are not children with moderate disabilities. These are children with severe disabilities. So I want to also, say that because it's taken very, very seriously by both families and the staff at school.
Now let's try the town side. Comments on the capital expenditures, why it's changed, and about the library one.
Thank you for your question. Earlier we heard the superintendent state the things that keep her up at night. PCBs keep me up at night, as you might imagine. So everyone's aware of the scenario with Kent Memorial Library. We had invested approximately $5 million of town funds, another $1 million of private funds into Kent Memorial Library. And then we realized that it has a catastrophic PCB problem. We have been diligently working with the federal EPA and the state DEP to come up with a solution. We need to find a strategy for remediating the problem and then doing the work. And so we have been testing. We have been working with the regulators. We, as many will remember, we appropriated an additional $500,000 towards PCB remediation for Kent Memorial Library. We're almost at the end of those funds, and we're not close to being done yet. We have appropriated in this budget $200,000 to work on some additional funds, additional testing, and some sandblasting, where we likely suspect that the remediation process will involve sandblasting. We've invested too much money to board up that building and abandon it at this point. However, we will not be able to spend another penny until we come back to the town or we find another alternative funding source. I have been saying all along, I will attempt to find another funding source before I ask for another penny. However, based on the state of our state and other factors, it may be unlikely that we can do so. However, we are going to try. But at the end of the day, I would hate to abandon the money that we have put into this building. I would hate to abandon the resource that we have in this community, that we voted as a town, that we wanted to pursue. Hindsight is 20/20. Yes, we could have knocked that building down in hindsight and built a beautiful brand new library, but that ship has sailed. And so we're trying to salvage what we can do now to bring that library back to our community. And again, I've included a few additional projects in the capital project list because after waiting this long and going through this much, we deserve, the town deserves, the town employees, the library employees deserve to go back to a library that is representative of the town of Suffield. Now, what does that mean for the other capital projects? Oh, and just as a caveat, until we understand what is happening with the PCB remediation, we will not be wasting money fixing the auditorium. There is a sequence to the way we will decide to spend money. We won't spend a penny on doing any of that work until we know what the plan is for PCB remediation and we know what the funding source will be. So I assure you, I'm not going to allow us to waste town money on that project. So that is my priority, is getting the library done and back into service for the community. Then we have the remaining projects that we approved for bonding, including the town hall and the Bridge Street Community Center. The town hall project was, in my opinion, not the best design that fit the current needs of the town and the ongoing needs of the town. So we have spent the better part of the last year and a half working with the space needs study firm, EDM, coming up with the best configuration for town hall, looking to get the folks that are over in 230C Mountain Road back into one building. We will be able to take advantage of getting back the lost tax revenue. over at 230C by not having to abate the the real property taxes occupied by the town. So getting everyone under one roof is my goal. It'll be better for customer service, etc. It'll be more efficient for the town. However, that plan, again, is really just at the stage where I'm comfortable that I would go behind it and presenting it to the town. The next step for both the Bridge Street School Community Center and the Town Hall is to send those out, those designs that we have right now, out to an RFP for an architect and a construction manager. And now we have spent quite a bit of time working on the RFP process, because what we've learned from prior projects, if you are aware of the large animal facility and the fire pump, we ended up in protracted litigation because the documents that we signed with the construction companies did not represent and protect the best interest from an indemnification standpoint of the town of Suffield. We learned from our mistakes, and we're making sure that we have taken all precautions in looking, if things go south, what are our remedies, and how can we make sure that we are well represented going forward. So that's where a lot of the time has lapsed. However, we're almost ready to go forward with the RFP process. Now, once we get the bids back, we approved through our town meeting process, correct me if I'm wrong, $8.3 million for the Bridge Street School and 5.1 or 3 for Town Hall, something along those lines. If we come back with the bids that are greater in dollar amount or a reduction in scope, a material reduction in scope from what was represented to the town when we voted, those projects cannot proceed. And we will be very diligent in making sure that we communicate with the town, that we are transparent in the planning that we're going to do and how we're going about those projects. And if we need more money or we need to change the scope, we will necessarily have to come back to the town of Suffield for approval. If we didn't, we would not be able to get a clean opinion from bond counsel and issue the bond that will fund the projects. So we will be required to do so. So that's kind of a long answer. These things take a lot of time. We're doing a lot of due diligence to make sure that we are not putting the town in a position where we get far down a project and we discover things like the PCBs that keep me up at night. So I hope that answered your question.